Hello folks, this is Old School from WhatTheBuck.net, coming live from our YouTube channel. We got a couple of pieces of information to report on the Buccaneers front. I know it's a ridiculous time of the evening, but I figured, hell, why not do it now? One of the things we've been talking about persistently is the lack of depth in the linebacker position, especially with the release of Cato June, Derek Brooks, and then with some of the relative inexperience of guys like Quincy Black, Adam Hayward, Geno Hayes, and the relative assiness of Matt McCoy, who's absolutely horrible. A couple of answers have come to light recently about what they're going to do. There was an announcement on Buccaneers.com. It's been replicated elsewhere as well. Jermaine Phillips, who's played safety for us quite well, is known as one of the hardest hitters in the league. Looks like he's going to get a chance to play a little bit of weak side linebacker. Size-wise, he's comparable to our linebacker crew. And to be honest, one of the weaknesses he's had historically is in coverage. He doesn't have the ability to gain ground across the field as fast as some of the other guys like Savvy and certainly Tenard Jackson as well. So the big concern we have with this, from what the Buck perspective is, Jermaine has shown that he can absolutely knock the tar out of people. The problem is he's also shown he's a little bit fragile. Broke both forearms. Has spent a fair amount of time on the injured reserve list here because he hasn't been able to hold up to the contact. Now that's contact as a safety playing in the box, and he plays in the box a lot. He does a lot in run support. But now you're taking this guy who's typically out in space and putting him in a place where he's going to get a lot more contact. The question becomes, can he actually hold up to that? We joked around that we need some adamantanium or whatever the hell it is in Wolverine to put into his forearm. So we'll actually see how this whole thing works out, but I think it's interesting to see that Jim Bates and Raheem Morris are working together to be creative on the linebacker front. Now, that's what they're doing on the linebacker front. What's the front office doing? Well, we signed another free agent, Angelo Crowell, who's I believe brother is Jermaine Crowell, former receiver, from the Buffalo Bills. Is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, wore number 55 with Buffalo. I doubt very seriously he'll rock 55 here in Tampa. But he did sign with the Buccaneers. The details of that signing obviously were not disclosed. The Bucs never disclosed that sort of information. Obvious things around this is the guy was a third-round draft pick, ascended the ranks, took over for Takeo Spikes, was inserted as a starter, had an injury with his tricep that was repaired, and then went out most recently in 2007. With a knee injury that was a surprise. When I went out and checked out some of the Buffalo news reports, this was a pretty big shock in 2008. He had gone through training camp and things were good. Then he thought he needed just arthroscopic surgery to clean up the knee, and he ended up being out the entire year, which really hurt that defense. But the resounding feedback from that team was that this is a hell of a strong player. He certainly racked up plenty of tackles. When you look at some of the basic stats, his first season he took over for Takeo Spikes in 2005. He had 119 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. That was only in 12 starts. Those are pretty darn good numbers. And he continued to put on those sorts of numbers. He averaged 120 tackles a year. A heck of a backer. I don't know enough about him to say I think the guy's terrific, but he was certainly a relatively coveted free agent in the linebacker spot. So when you look at some of the areas where we wanted to add some depth, we have an added depth with Jermaine, obviously, because we're shifting sand. We're taking him from the safety spot and putting him in linebacker. And to be honest, we're not that deep at safety either. But it does give us some capabilities if Geno Hayes is slow in recovering from his knee surgery from last year. But by getting Angelo Crowell in here, that is a good sign. It gives us another good body. Hopefully he's recovered thoroughly. And to be honest, the reports out of the Buffalo newspaper that I found, anyway, from the Buffalo News online, was that he looked good in training camp before he went out with the surgery. But it was just a matter of swelling. So hopefully that's fully recovered. It's not like we're talking about a guy who had a torn patella tendon or something to that effect. At least nothing that I've been able to find substantiates that. So news out of Tampa. Jermaine Phillips may get a shot at weak side linebacker. We'll see if he can actually show us how to blitz. And Angelo Crowell is now a Buccaneer, which gives us yet another linebacker, which is a good move. One of the big things we're going to have to find out, and one of the things we talked about a little bit on the show, and I may have talked on the last YouTube about, is historically, or at least recently certainly, our linebackers have been horrible blitzers. When we blitz a linebacker, typically we might as well be playing 10 on 11 or 9 on 11. They get clogged up in the middle. They can't get through their assignments. They're not getting home. And that's something that Jim Bates' defense definitely is predicated on. He wants guys that are playing that linebacker spot that when we call a blitz on those guys, they're going to get through and they're going to get home. At the very least, they're going to make contact. Sometimes it's not as much about getting the sack as it is about putting a lick on somebody and making sure they understand that, if you don't read this blitz successfully, we may not get you every time, but you're going to get on your back every time, and you're going to remember it. And that's something that I think this defense is going to try and hang its hat on next year. Only time will tell. Only training camp will give us a glimpse. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was useful. Make sure you give us a rating, and we'll see you next time on the YouTube channel. Thanks so much.